Now, Aimee was born Aimee Rowe in August of 1972, on the 4th, if we're being exact, in Santa Barbara, California, to her mother, Joanne, and her father, Dwayne. She has 3 older siblings, and fairly early in Aimee's life, they moved from California to Wyoming. Aimee is described as shy, quiet, disciplined, and goal-oriented. She got really good grades throughout school, and she was accepted to the University of Wyoming. During her undergrad years, she was a competitive cross-country runner. And seriously, bless those people that run, because if you see me running, you better run. Something is chasing me. I can never get to the point where running is fun. So bless you people, and teach me your ways. Anyway, she met her husband Steve during her time at the University of Wyoming. She graduated from UW with a bachelor's in exercise physiology. Aimee and Steve got married in 1996, and the newlyweds moved to Lander, Wyoming. Steve was an avid rock climber, and the terrain there was really more suitable for him to continue this hobby. Now, Aimee never stopped running. She ran both for leisure, fun, I guess, and competitively. And when this case takes place, she had hopes of competing for the United States of America in the 2000 Olympic Games. To make money as she pursued her dreams, she found work as a personal trainer. Aimee and Steve had recently bought a house, and they were planning to move a little bit later on in the month, or in the summer, I guess, the next month. So that brings us to July 27th of 1997. It was a fairly typical day for Aimee. She left the house to head to work. She did mention to her husband that she had to run several errands that day. You know, when you're moving into a house, there's a bunch of stuff that has to be done. She had to call the phone company. She had to get the gas and electric turned on over there, and she had to go buy homeowners insurance. So, a busy day ahead of her. That morning, she taught a weightlifting class for kids at the Wind River Fitness Center where she worked as a personal trainer. After this class wrapped up, she headed to Camera Connection, a photo store, and then she stopped at a place called Gallery 331. From what I can tell, it's like a local art shop / gallery, and the owner of this Gallery 331 is the last person known to have spoken with Aimee, and this was around 2:30 p.m. This person noticed that she seemed like she was really in a hurry, and she repeatedly glanced at her watch during their conversation. She is then thought to have driven to the Shoshone National Forest to scope out the course for a 10K run that she had signed up for. She wanted to kind of check it out before she actually ran it, which makes a lot of sense to me. She was training for this, and she really wanted to make sure about the terrain and stuff. Now, it's unclear if she planned to run the full 10K, which ran along Loop Road, or if she just wanted to familiarize herself with the area. According to an eyewitness on Loop Road through the forest that afternoon, a woman resembling Aimee was seen running along the road, wearing black shorts similar to those that she had worn earlier that day. So, the day kind of continues. No one really sees her or hears from her. And when Steve she had a lot of stuff to do. So at 8:15, he goes over to the neighbor's house, Todd and Aimee Skinner, and they were making dinner. She still wasn't home at that time, but he really wasn't concerned about where Aimee was at this point. However, he went home after dinner, and the Skinners went to a movie. When they got home from the movie at around 11 p.m., he went over to them and he said, "Hey, I'm kind of concerned because she is still not home yet." So Steve stays at home, and the Skinners drive several roads where they believe Aimee could have gone jogging. Steve was hoping she would call, and so that's why he stayed at home. I really don't know if I could have sat at home waiting. I might have left one of them at home because I can't just sit around. It drives me crazy. So at around 1 a.m., after driving on Loop Road for about an hour, they find Aimee's car. It is a white Toyota Tercel, and it is parked on a shoulder near Burnt Gulch. Burnt Gulch is a valley in Lander that is popular with hikers and bikers and, these trail hiker people. I would love to do that, but there's no place to do it here. Her belongings were still in the car, completely undisturbed. By 3 a.m., law enforcement had teams searching the Shoshone National Forest for any signs of Aimee. Steve and Aimee's friends and family also aided in the search for her, but they found basically nothing except one footprint that was similar to her sneaker, but it was lost or damaged. I couldn't find out exactly how before the police could retrieve a print of it. So we don't actually have any confirmation that it was her shoe print. So this shoe print was lost before the police could get a good copy of it. And I imagine that she wore probably a quite popular brand of running shoe. So I don't know how they would have. Anyway, that is about the only evidence they found that she was anywhere near this area, except for her car. By morning, the search expanded dramatically. Eventually, more than 500 people covered a 20-mile radius of this forest searching for Aimee Bechtel. While tips poured in, police believe that she'd had an accident or a wildlife encounter. They searched the lakes in the area, but they found nothing. As this investigation wore on and no one found any substantial leads in this case, they waited while they searched for 8 days, and then they called it off. Now, investigators found Aimee's $120 sunglasses, her to-do list, and her car keys on the seat of her car. The only thing that was really missing was her wallet. And I have to believe that she may have taken that with her on a run. I find it strange she would take the whole thing with her instead of just removing the important part, your ID, your debit card, whatever. But you also left your car keys in the car. That doesn't feel right to me. You guys tell me what you do in that case. I can't imagine going to the gym and leaving the keys in the car. So it is believed that foul play was involved in her disappearance. And like most cases we talk about here on my channel, they began to suspect Steve in an effort to source new leads and also get context for how the relationship was. They search Steve's journals, and in them they find some pretty unsettling things. He wrote entire entries describing same time as the sighting, and they don't have cell phones in 1997, so now I guess someone else could have made that call from Steve's house. But friends of Aimee's told investigators he had abusive tendencies. He acted jealous and very possessive of her. Once suspicions started turning towards him, Steve lawyered up, and he ceased any and all cooperation with the police department. On August 1st, investigators claimed to have evidence implicating Steve in the murder of his wife, but it was only the circumstantial evidence that they located in his journals, which Steve said were just song lyrics for his band. He refused to take a polygraph, and he has never been charged for any involvement in Aimee Bechtel's disappearance. And at this point, this case just goes cold. Almost pretty much ice cold. There's no significant developments. Tips and leads still came in, but nothing really panned out to be substantial. The next big break in Aimee Bechtel's case came in 2003, when a hiker found a watch that matched the description of the one that Aimee had been wearing the day she disappeared. Unfortunately, they can't really confirm that it belonged to Aimee. And the case goes cold again. Steve remarried, I totally typed that wrong, several years after Aimee vanished. And according to several reports that I read, he still lives in the house that they purchased just days before she disappeared, that she never got to move into. Apart from Steve, the only suspect in this case is a man named Dale Wayne Eaton. Eaton is known as the Great Basin Killer, and he's currently serving a death sentence in Wyoming for the murder of Lisa Marie Kimmel in 1988. Eaton's brother claims that he often camped near Burnt Gulch in the late 1990s, so it would be quite feasible that he and Aimee crossed paths on the day of her disappearance. Unfortunately, his whereabouts on the day of Aimee's disappearance are not confirmed, and Eaton refuses to speak with investigators about the details of her disappearance. So, yes, there are a lot of theories, but there's nothing to back it up. I'm gonna cover 4 theories that seem to be mentioned the most often. Perhaps the most popular is Steve had something to do with Aimee's disappearance, with her friends' reports of him being controlling and jealous, these really icky journal entries, and the witness seeing the vehicle that placed him close to where she was running that day. There are some pretty major red flags, if you ask me. But there's no concrete evidence that he was involved. Everything is circumstantial. Other friends of the couple came forward and kind of disputed the fact that he was controlling, stating that their relationship seemed to be doing well. I mean, if I was a suspect in a murder case, I would ask for legal counsel, regardless of being innocent or not. So I can't really say, oh, well, he immediately lawyered up. I would too. Knowing what I know, I would too. So I can't hold that against him. Her family doesn't believe that he's involved, but I don't know, things don't really look terribly great for Steve, if you ask me. The second is another very common, is crime of opportunity, meaning somebody saw her while she was out running and just attacked her because she was there and they had this impulse. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a serial killer or Eaton. Yes, he's a possibility, but there's no way to know who else could have encountered her that evening, and if they had any ill intentions toward her, she wouldn't have succumbed to the elements at that point. It was July, so she's not getting hypothermia or frostbite or anything like that. And unless she was unconscious, like, the entire time they searched for her, which is horrible to think about, but wouldn't she have heard them, like, calling for her? I don't know, that seems quite the unlikely instance to me. I feel like they would have found her by now. I mean, we are in 2022. They haven't found her off the trail or anything. I find that very, very odd. So the final theory is kind of a mixed. Maybe she took her own life somewhere in the woods or in Burnt Gulch that day. Now, it's pretty circumstantial, but when someone disappears, suicide or running away from your life is always a possibility that we don't hardly ever discuss. Aimee was an incredibly accomplished woman. She had a degree. She was working towards her dream of being an Olympic athlete, but her relationship wasn't really that good, right? Suicide is often an impulsive decision. It's usually, but not always, don't come for me, a snap judgment made in an attempt to end pain. We can't possibly know what was going on in her head that day. We can't know what was happening between her and Steve behind closed doors. We can't really rule anything out. Her family continues to search for her, although her father has passed away. Her case is unsolved, and as I said before, foul play is suspected. The Fremont County Sheriff's Office can be reached at 307-332-1000. It appears that they both use case file number 46860 for this case. You can also contact the Wyoming Division of Criminal Investigation at 307-777-7181. I will put all of those numbers in the description box down below. If you or anyone you know knows something, definitely shoot it on over to them so maybe Aimee can be found. I don't know, guys. I try to sit down and discuss theories as I'm putting these cases together. Let's talk about Steve for a little. Okay, we can't really hold his journal entries against him. I have definitely said some things to significant others that could get me put in jail, or people. So I don't necessarily think we can hold private thoughts against him. Now, obviously, if he had laid out a plan and then discussed what had happened after he had done it, yes, I think we could hold that against him. But now, having been in an abusive relationship myself, I do know that the abuser often goes to quite significant lengths to hide it from close friends and family and things like that, because it's a control thing. They don't want other people to know. They don't want you to say anything to other people, and they don't want to be called out about such things, you know? It's a control issue. So, was he abusive to her? I don't know. I wasn't there. Was she unhappy? I don't know. I'm not in her head. She seemed to be, like I said, working towards achieving her goals and doing all of these things. I don't know. This case is so weird to me. Like I discussed, I feel like if she had fallen on the trail, near the trail, tripped and landed in a creek or whatever, she would have had to have been unconscious either for the rest of the time or for a very significant amount of time. They were in the woods looking for her by 3 a.m. That is completely unheard of in these missing persons cases. You know, we hear so many cases where the police and detectives or whatever think she like froze or something. Now, what to say she didn't fall in a creek over her head? I don't know. I don't have any record of how deep some of the water and things are in that area, but I have to feel as though if that were the case, they would have found her. She would have drifted or floated or something. I have to, from my knowledge, believe that that is what would happen. Now, crime of opportunity. So, if someone grabbed her, I find it kind of odd that there were 0 signs of a scuffle. Nothing was mentioned, and I feel as though unless this person had like a fairly significant weapon or something, there would be signs of a scuffle of some sort, dragging her feet, something, dropping something to let people know she was taken, something, anything, unless they forced her into their car with a weapon, like I said. Everything can be disputed, so I would love to know what your theories are on this case. Do you think that Steve was involved? Do you think that David Eden is just not mentioning it because he doesn't want to be charged with another crime, even though he's already serving life in prison? Those kind of things I can't understand. If you're already sentenced to life in prison, why not just fess up and give these families some closure? Oh, right, because you're not a good dude. I don't know why I even expect kindness out of murderers. I guess I just always seek the good in people. They don't care about closure for these families, so that would be why. Shannon, come on, use your brain. Anyway, thank you guys so much for being here today. I know that this was a shorter